All right, we're back, and I'm excited because we have Officer Puskar with the Pennsylvania State Troopers.
Yes, Pennsylvania State Police.
State Police.
Yep.
I apologize.
That's okay.
The only time I see you guys is when I get my ticket. So.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I'm sorry about that.
No, that's my fault for not listening to my wife and slowing down.
They're always right.
That is true. So we were talking a little bit before, and I think that it's important to understand. Tell us a little bit about your interaction with homelessness, right? And what your whole piece plays in there. And then you came up with some issues that you're facing, and how do we help work together as a team to combat that? So,
some of the issues that we see are that they don't necessarily want to go, and we can't force them to go. Ultimately, we are worried about their safety and well-being, especially during the colder months, where if they're outside in the elements, sometimes frostbite, depending on the temperature, it'll set in quick. And when we speak to the homeless, they're a little hesitant to speak with us. So part of it is if your organization is available to kind of bridge that gap where we're there to help. We're not there to harass or anything like that. We are truly there to help. And sometimes it's difficult to get that across where they just don't want the service. And there has to be a way, and maybe they do, they just don't want it through us. But I'm trying to bridge that gap so that we can help more people out there.
So the first thing that's coming to my mind, and I'm sure you're familiar with, is the CIT
Yes.
program. And for those that don't know, that's the program that actually will send out like a mental health clinician with you out there with someone with a mental health disorder and try to help them, navigate them to get help through the hospital train versus you having to de-escalate a situation that gets out of control.
Right.
And I can actually tell you that we have seen this out on the square, and not here, but out on the area, that we see police that come involved, right, to the homeless, and all they're doing is just a status check. And a good one is the tent that we had set up here, not here right now, but we had a tent in the back that an individual set up. Police said, you can't set up a tent here in, public square, that's not what it's for.
Right.
And instead of the individual taking the tent down and moving on, de-escalated to this point that it blew up, right? And started to attack people and just going out of control. And it went from 0 to 10. And so I think that it is vital that we need to have someone that speaks the language, right? It's obviously English, but it's speaking the language of the homeless. And we already have a rapport with the homeless. And so what's interesting is that I developed a program called Team Agape, which is our mobile outreach team.
Okay.
Which I'd be willing to explore in that we could be part of that 411 number, or that, that emergency contact, they call us, and having our mobile outreach team going out to a call like that.
Okay.
And making that connection. It's interesting enough in that, and I'm going to speak the homeless language, and I'm not defending the homeless at all, that they have already a stigma against not just the police, but they also have a stigma against anyone of authority, anyone that is trying to be a regular average day Joe out there, because they're already being judged, right? They already feel like they're being judged, and they feel that you're just coming out there because a lot of them are involved in drugs. A lot of them are already involved in crime, the criminal charges that they have in the past. So they don't want to get banged up again, as they call it, or getting in trouble again and all that. So they want to say, hey, you know what, if I see a boom, I'm out of here. I'm going to flee, or I'm not going to talk to you, and I'm going to be resistant and give you a hard time and say, no, I don't want to do that. So I think that's an awesome idea. I think that partnership, because what it's going to do is, it's going to save you the headache of trying to de-escalate that situation, but we all know what the outcome's going to be, right? Number two, what I love what you said, and I want to make sure that people understood that, is you don't want to see them get hurt. You don't want to see them freeze to death.
Absolutely.
You don't want to see them overheat from heat stroke, because we don't talk about heat a lot when it's going to be hot
Everybody
outside.
always associates the winter as being the worst time.
Right.
However, it does get hot in PA.
Yep.
We get all the seasons, so...
And heat stroke doesn't discriminate either.
Exactly.
And so I think that is a very good, valid point. And so what you brought here today is actually a gap that's not being fed, but not being met. And so if we can help that, or we can help facilitate other organizations to help navigate that process, that might be an avenue that we could take.
Right.
Now, there was another issue that we talked about or offline, which was about transportation.
Yes.
So explain a little bit about that. So
We can transport, depending on where the person's coming from.
okay,
And it also depends on sometimes manpower. When we were talking offline before, is there I don't want to say a shuttle service, but is there a service that can be utilized? Or is this something that maybe we can partner with the state rep to see if there's funding that there can be a 24-hour or an on-call type service?
so we have presently. I can tell you what the outcome is most of the time. They dial 911, or you guys would dial 911 or call through your dispatch.
Right.
An ambulance, and that's
Okay.
usually what happens in that outcome. Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to know every way they can to get where they need to do that. But with us, I say we have the mobile facility to do it. The issue is we don't have the manpower to do it because that's not one of the things on my list.
Right.
It doesn't mean that we can't get it to be done, or we can't work with agencies to bring it in again, like we talked before, on how to make that happen. The question is right, we need to transport them. Where do we transport them, right? We always come back to the catch-22 is we're trying to build a facility so that we can get them. March
Right.
we will,
Right.
all right? But once I get 10, 15 people in that building, I can't take any more.
Okay.
Now, we will transport them, 10 to 15 people, 100%. We'll bring them in, transport them because they're coming into our facility. But when, let's say, you say, hey, we need to get someone from out in Plymouth to the Wilkes-Barre's March bus station because they're trying to get a bus ticket. Well, we're going to have a difficult time with that, manpower-wise.
Right.
I think that this is something that, and I've talked before with a lot of the individuals, and maybe we need to bring someone to represent the police force, whether it's troopers or state police, or whether it's local police, in that we need to start a think tank, right? And you guys need to come to the table and say, this is what we're experiencing with the homelessness.
And what we can do courtesy transports, and that's not a problem. Sometimes the issue that we run into is when they have an abundance of items, and they won't leave unless they can take everything, and I get that.
Or the trust.
Right.
I mean, I'm thinking of myself homeless. I've already been interacted with you guys, probably on a bad way, right? And now you're telling me you're going to transport me, and I'm probably going to be transported the exact same way that I was transported the other way.
Typically, yes.
But this time I don't have any handcuffs on or
Right.
whatever. I can understand there's going to be a lot of barriers with that,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. And the state police, we do have a CIT team that's modeled after the Memphis, the model.
Beautiful,
So
beautiful.
that's something that came online not too long ago. More and more troopers are getting trained on it every month.
Well, maybe we do a hit model, which is homeless,
Right.
interaction team, and come up with something that we could do. I think I would love to spearhead and work and navigate that system in the not just the state level but also local level.
Absolutely.
And an on-call unit that would just come out and move it and help transport, because de-escalation is 100%.
Oh, that's key.
Needs to be
That's
done.
Absolutely.
And I would say 90% of all your calls could probably be de-escalated and not have an issue, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's the 10% that we need you guys for.
Yeah, communication's
to do it.
key.
Yeah.
In every aspect of it.
And I will tell you this, and I can't speak for the state police, but I can speak for different municipalities that they're learning to talk to the homeless in a much better way, right? Before it was, hey, you, blah, 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 or hey, you, da, 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 whatever it is. Now it's more of, hey, John, I know we're having an issue. And I'm going to give you an example real quick. When we were in our day center up in Scranton, we had the Scranton police come in, right? And we hired the Scranton police part-time, actually, well, I guess it was part-time, to come in on their off time to be armed security for us, protection, because we had a big spice problem up where we were, and we wanted to stop it right then and there.
Right.
We're here for safety and not for hurting anyone. And so it scared the spice dealers away, which is what we wanted.
Right.
But it was we had an amazing outcome that we did not expect out of that. And what happened was the police that were off duty were like, I never knew John was a pretty cool guy, being homeless. And now they're out on the streets, not calling him, hey, you, but calling him, hey, John, tell me what's going on, man. What,
Right.
are you moving forward in the right direction? And then the police decided they wanted to hand out food, you know, in our building to them. And so they were doing it, and they handed out food. But one of the things is we have a worship service, you know, prior to that. So the pastor of the police department gave the sermon, and then finished it with Amazing Grace. And something clicked right then and there when you have homeless men and women singing Amazing Grace, standing side by side with the police department singing Amazing Grace, and just the amount of love and compassion and everything that was going on. And you saw that the stigma and the hatred on, and I'm going to say both sides,
Right.
and the judgment on both sides disappeared. And we saw that now we're having people communicating, and crime went down, services went up, and there was a better rapport between that. So I agree. I think that you know, there has to be all around the training and facility programs.
And, one thing that we started with the state police is I'm part of community engagement, so it's the Office of Community Engagement, which is under Community Affairs. And just recently, with Pastor Tim Walker in Restored Church, I just linked up with him. We had a Faith in Blue this past Monday. And now we're going to, I think it's on Thursdays, they'll be doing their food drive.
Okay.
So we're also helping out with that too, to get out there in the public a little bit more and say, hey, we're here for you. This isn't just me pulling over cars on the side of the road or going to a call. We're normal people. We could talk. We're here for the community. That was like number one priority. That's our unit solely. That's our mission statement. We are community based. We're boots on the ground, talking to the community, seeing where the needs are, and then trying to help as much as we can. And that's when I heard about this today. I said, I'm like, I have to come down and talk to you.
So
to see what we could do.
3 things. I think the first thing we need to do is we need to do I want to call it a homeless town hall meeting, right? And instead of listening to a governor or president or whoever, they're listening to the police, right? And tell your story and let them tell their story. And build that dialogue going on.
Absolutely.
And then that starts the next process, which I think is phase 2, that we explore how can we come to stand side by side with you guys and de-escalate all the situation that's going on. And then phase 3 would be that transportation and how we can move people to where they need to go. And I think with those 3-prong effect, I'm always about 3 prongs, but those 3-prong effect, I think we can start making change in your department and making change that you'll be sitting on this square, right, talking to me next year, and you'll have everybody going by, hey, how you doing?
That would be fantastic.
And I think it'll be a whole different atmosphere in there. And it just starts with one little process. So I'm all on board. I think that we could come up with a great plan, and I'm sure there's funding to help make this happen. And if not, I'm sure that Keystone Mission can find the funding to make that move in the right direction. But I think this is something that needs to be done and moved in, a positive way.
I agree 100%.
I'm on board.
Right.
After we're done here, I'll transfer our numbers so we can talk, and we'll go from there. I appreciate you coming out here.
Thanks for having me.
The first step is actually making the communication, right?
Absolutely.
Reaching out there,
opening the door.
And you saying communicating. You always talked about talking, and I think that's the best thing to do. So,
Right.
appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Appreciate it.